Welcome back. Now let us look into the second aspect, which this will be an interesting point for you towards taking up into the SQL and its way. So the first and foremost item, what we have to understand here is the study towards the relational model. The study towards relational model. When we are going to call it as a relational model, it is with database management system. Then it is going to occupy tuple calculus, algebra, and relations. So these are the primary constitutes of a RD BMS, where we can build up the relations. That is the first and foremost aspect we have to consider up towards taking the thing. Next one was, who are the people in the market providing the DBMS? It can be an IBM people, Microsoft people, Oracle or Sybase people. And these are vendors which they support with XML, etc. Now, relational database is going to be set of relations. When I am going to call it as a relation, the first and foremost thing I should understand was the items has to be taken up in form of rows and tables, and the relations should be one to one, one to many, and many to one. Next, when it is going to be in form of rows and columns as a table with rows and columns. Now, the table rows, we call them as cardinality. The tuples, what we are going to call as cardinality. The attributes, we are going to call them as columns. The columns, we will be calling them as degree of a relation or arity of a relation. This we should understand. When we are going to call it as rows, they are called as tuples, and in relational databases, while a relational model, we have to call it as a cardinality. Next one, when we are going to call it as an attribute, then we assume it is representing a column, and those we have to pronounce it as degree or we have to pronounce it as arity. So that is what we are going to mention. This is first aspect. What was the second aspect? The second aspect was to build a schema. The second aspect was to build a schema. How I am going to build a schema? It is going to specify a name of a relation. The name of a relation is name of relation. It is going to be called as student plus names and types of each columns. Names and types of each columns. So column name, SID, name, string, name, age, and GPA. Now, column type. What is the column type? It can be string type, it can be integer type, or it can be a real type. So, real type, integer type, string type. So, having a table name, having a field names, we call those items has a schema. So schema consists of a table name, field names, and its data type names. That is clear. Then if we are going to make a input operation, it is taken up in form of rows and columns. Row names, we are going to call them as cardinality. Number of rows, we are going to call it as cardinality. Number of columns, we call them as degree, or we call them as arity here. Now, see this table here. SID is going to be the unique item, name of a student, the login ID of a student, the age, and the grade points. These are the different items. Now we are going to say it is row 1, row 2, row 3, column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, and column 5. Now, let us put a question like this. How much is the cardinality and how much is the value for a degree? We mentioned in our previous slide the total number of rows in a relation, we call it as cardinality. Number of rows in a relation, we are going to call it as cardinality. What is degree or arity of a relation? The total number of columns we are going to put up. That is, number of columns we are going to rise, we call them as degree of we call it as a degree here. Yeah. So cardinality was 3, degree was 5. Next one. Do all rows are distinct? Yes, all rows are distinct. Why I am going to make it as all rows are can have the same age, right? You are all work in the same, we are all the same CSCB if it is like this, and all are admitted in 2018. If such is the case, so your age group, most of you, it will be around 19 or 20. So it doesn't mean that every girl should have a unique age, right? It doesn't mean like that. So there can be a duplicate values in the age, but everybody is going to identify with your own register number, and that register number is unique item, which it should not be duplicate, and there should not be any redundant. So it should be uniquely identified as an atomic. So that is why we are going to have those SIDs as the primary keys. Now, each column and each column, if we are going to allow some set of values to a column, then we are going to call that one as a domain constraint. If we are going to put some values to that column, then we call it as domain constraint. I will show you with an example. So here I am going to put age, right? So age group, if I am going to say it should be between, if it should be between 18, 19, 20 or 21. If I am going to say age is a value here, and it should be between 18, 19, 20 and 21. Now I am going to call it as domain constraint. I am going to call that word as a domain constraint. What should be the age? I can't admit a third 3 years old boy or a girl to BTech second year. I can't admit a 40 years or 50 years guy to a BTech second year. So in general, the age I'm going to fix up, it is between 18 to 21. If this age only, they can be admitted to this BTech. If you see such a thing is going to there, now I'm going to have a domain. So the domain value was, the domain constraint was, the domain value was, the domain condition was, it should be 18, 19, 20 or 21, not above it, not below it. If such is a scenario, we are going to focus it up. We call those items here as a domain constraints. So each column is going to be interpreted with a domain value. Each column, it is going to be interpreted with a domain value, and that domain value is going to be atomic. And whatever domain value we are going to specify, that value, it is going to be atomic, that is individual. It is 18, 19, 20. There is no overlap. Individual. It is individual, and so 18 is separate, 19 is separate, 20 is separate. There is no mixing between these values. Then we can say. Next one, a special value. Null is a member of each domain. A special value, null is a member of each domain. So when we do, suppose we have a blood group as a field name, and in that blood group I don't have, I can't, if I am going to miss some value, so I don't have a value, I don't want to put it as a blank, then null, it is going to be incorporated into that value, so that in future it is not going to affect the main presentation. It is not going to not affect, so it is not affect that main presentation of a value. So we are going to include the null value. So null, we can say that if I don't know the value, instead of putting it as empty, we can pass the null into that field. So null, we can say there is an empty value included at that column. It is an indication. So for that, we are going to use the values. Next one. Are relation ordered or unordered? Definitely unordered, right? So it is that 561, if I am going to say, I have taken enrolling your content in the ECAP software. So if such is the case, it need not be 565 should be first, 5 should come to admission for next, and 566 person people should come for admission in the next. It's not like that. It is a random event. So 5, assume here A101 can be the first. Then I can say another girl can be the next. But once we are going to organize the things, then we are going to sort the items. We are going to sort the items from unordered to ordered, and thereby we can make a relation. So here you can see 101 and 102, we say it is unordered here. We are going to call that one an unordered. Similarly, I can say 3, 5 and 201. Again, it is going to be an unordered relation. It need not be that all the things should be in an ordered wise. So when we are going to insert something into a database, the insert operation need not be an ordered item. It can be an unordered item, right? So whoever is going to enroll first, those they can be the first. It need not be that the serial number wise the data has to be included. So while building a relation, the content can be an unordered element. So that is what we are going to assume. Next, a database can have multiple relations. A database can have multiple relations, or it is going to consist of multiple relations. And information, it is going to be broken up into different parts, and each relation is storing one or more part of an information. So it need not be that the entire information should be pulled up in a single table. It can be deposited in multiple tables, but when I want to have a holistic remark, all these 3 tables can be joined to get a quick insight of a data, right? So a relation need not be from a single table. It can be borrowed from a multiple table. Hence, it can be broken up. when a insight has to be rendered, when a query has to be answered, it need not be taken up from the single table. It can be joined with multiple tables and thereby data can be extracted. So that is why we are going to say a database is going to consist of multiple tables and information can be broken up among these multiple tables. So now I can see this is an example accounts, which is going to store the information of an accounts. Then I'm going to have a table called as depositor. He is going to store the information about the customer accounts. And third, we are going to stay the customer details. So customer details is going to is a table which it is maintaining of a customer data, and depositor it is going to store which person has made a deposits. In this way it is making another table, and accounts it is going to store the entire account information. So a data set is going to be broken into a multiple entities. Now, how can I bring this to a single relation? How can I bring this to a single relation? I can say there is a word called as bank. So now bank, we are going to call it as a superset, and that superset it is going to have three individual entities. So now I can say it is a bank database. I can say it is a bank database. I can call it as bank database, and this bank database it is going to have table 1 as accounts, it is going to have table 2 as customer, and table 3 as depositor. One I am going to have accounts as one table, customer as another table, depositor as another table. So how I am going to include the contents here? The contents I am going to use a structured query language, SQL, developed by some IBM in 1970s, that is System R, and thereby there are some versions 86, 89, 92, 99. There are revised versions, and now we are using Oracle 9i, 10, 10G. So in this way, we are going to upgrade the versions. So why we are going to make these upgradations? Because new features are going to be incorporated, and that is going to strengthen the use of the database. So a relational query language. So it is going to be a simple and powerful querying over the data, and we are going to mingle this data with one data definition language, and two, we are going to mingle it with the data manipulation language. So that is how SQL is going to be taken up. Now, here is a data definition language which it is going to create tables, which it is going to create a relations. So how we are going to create a table, that is the table name. The table name I am going to call it as a student. So I am going to have field 1 SID, field 2 name, field 3 login, field 4 as age, and field 5 I am going to have GPA. And character, integer, real, they are going to be called it as some data types. So SID, name, login, age, GPA, these items we are going to call it as column names, or we are going to call it as field names. And the relation name, the table name, we are going to call it as student. And similarly, there is another table called as an enrolled. In this enrolled, we are going to have SID, CID, and grade. So SID, CID, and grade. Now you should understand here, SID is going to be the primary key. SID is going to be the primary key from the student, and it is going to be borrowed here, and it is going to be act as a referral key. It is going to act as a referral key here, and it is assumed as a foreign key, and it is assumed as a foreign key. So how we are going to interrogate this spectrum, that we will be taking up in the next slide. So after a creation of a table, some more commands in the data definition language, was the destroying of a table or the altering of a table, that is destroying of a relation or the altering of a relation. So for that, we are going to use a command called as a drop table followed by table name. So drop table followed by table name, we are going to say the table name was student, so that it is going to ended up. Similarly, we need to alter the table, we need to modify the table, we need to add one more column to the table. So for that, we are going to call here as an altering of a table. So when we are going to alter a table, the old data will be there and new data is going to be included to that aspect. So we call that entity here as an adding of a column. We call it as an adding of a column here. So when the schema is going to be altered, every tuple in the current instance is extended with a null value in the new field by default. So when I am going to add a column to it, immediately by default, a null value is going to be included into the table so that it doesn't harm or it doesn't see that the normalization of the database is going to be migrated. A command with a data manipulation language which to retrieve data, which it is going to retrieve the data, we are going to use it as a data manipulation language. So in that, we are going to have a select command. In select command, we have where class, we have from class, we have group by class, order by class, or having class. So using any one of the clauses. So select command with clauses. Select command with clause. Where class, from class, group by class, order by class, or having class. With any of a class, the data is going to be taken up from the database. The database is going to be retrieved from the database. So we are going to put the select command and we are going to generate the output. We are going to put the select command and we are going to retrieve the output from that scenario. So that is where we are going to use this data manipulation language. So now you can see there is a table called as SID, name, login, age, etc. Now we have put the SQL query. Now we have joined the SQL query. Select a star from student S. S is going to be call it as aliases. Yes, we are going to call it as aliases where S dot age is equals to 18. S dot age is equals to 18. So now you can see the earlier versions where we have taken up the databases. Then we talked about relations, we talked about cardinality, the arity. Then we have taken how to create a student database, that is with SID, name, login, age, and GPA. We talked it, and now we are going to see that select star from student where age is equals to 18. We mentioned it. So here you can see that the students whose age was 18, the student whose age was 18 is exclusively displayed. The students whose age was 18 is exclusively displayed. Earlier I can show the items here. So the first one you can see it is 18, 18, 19. There are 3 entries here, but now from these 3 entries, we are going to choose only 2 entries. How is it possible? We made with a condition. And that condition we are going to apply with a where clause. We are applying with a where clause. So that is where the data manipulation is going to find. Which it is going to join multiple relations. So in this multiple relation, now I am going to have relation 1. Relation 1, it is going to have SSID, name, login, age and Z, that is called as student. Then there is another relation, student ID, course ID and grade. We are going to call it as enrolled here. We are going to call it as enrolled here. One. Table 1 and table 2, that I am going to call it as relation 1 and this one was relation 2. So select name and CID, name from student, LSS yes, enrollment E from enrolled table, we are going to call CID, that is from this aspect, where SID is equals to SID, that is the SID and this SID should be same. Now SID is foreign key. SID is going to be foreign key and grade is equals to A. Whose grade? E dot grade. Where is E? E is from the enrollment. So now I am going to have A as an entity. Grade is equals to A. Then I am going to say 53650 is going to be picked up. So 53650 is equals to 53650. So where SID is equals to SID and E grade, E dot grade is equals to age. So 53650 is again taken up. Then that result is going to be displayed as an answer here. Now, what I have to display? I have to display student name and I am going to display the course ID. Course ID was topology 112. I am going to display the course ID and I am going to display the topology. So now we are going to build, instead of using a single table, now we are going to build up a relations between multiple tables, that is querying multiple tables. In table 1 we have taken student, in table 2 we have taken enrolled, and we joined first table with the second table using a foreign key. That means SID is a primary key at what table? Student, and that has been navigated to another table. That another table we are going to say it is going to be an enrolled table. So enrolled table, it is having its own unique ID as course ID and it is taking up the foreign key SID. And next, what was the thing we have shown? S.SID, that is it is in the student table. E.SID, we are referring it into the foreign in the enrollment table, and we made it two conditions. We made an AND operator. We have made an AND operator here, and we included the grade as A. So we talked about create, alter, drop, and select command. After that, we are now talking about the another command which will be a part to do both input operation and we can delete the tuple. So for that, we are going to add a tuple, add a row to database or delete a row from a database. Adding a row from a database or either deleting a row from a database. So how we are going to do? Insert is a command, into is a reserved word, student is name of table. Student is going to be the name of table and it is represented with student ID, name, login, age and grade value. So student name was SID, student SID, Smith is going to be the name, login ID is going to be there, and age and GPA. So if we are going to write a character, it can be in a single quotes or it can be in a double quotes. If we are going to use numeric data, it can be an integer or a real, no need to use the single quotes here. So that is the key takeaway here. So in insert command, you can make with the things with numeric data that there is no single quotes or double quotes. But if we are working with the character data, then we need to have a double quote here. Next one. After insert operation has been done, next we can pick the delete to deleted operation was I'm going to say delete from student, yes, where name is equals to Smith, where name is equals to Smith here. So here we can see that there are two rows, right? Smith and Smith are there, Smith and name is equals to Smith. If such is a case is going to happen, then only 53666 Jones will be there and rest of the two queries will be deleted. So delete from student S where S dot name is equal to Smith. What happens was the Smith name inside the first table will be deleted and only the two records are identical with the same name. So those two will be deleted and only Jones name will be there. Now, we talked about the DDL, we talked about the DML commands. Now, we have to talk about an interesting topic called as integrity constraints. Integrity constraints. So, applying unique, applying not null, applying primary key, foreign key, if with domain constraints, etc. These items we are going to primarily focus under a topic called as integrity constraints. So integrity constraints must be true for any instance of a database. If I am going to put a condition, greater students with marks greater than 60, with marks greater than 6 GPA, then definitely all the students who are greater than 6 GPA should come. The students who are less than 6 GPA should not come. That means the rows which are satisfying that condition all must obey the same condition. That is the basic where the constraint is going to be called up. So constraint is going to be called as a condition. And where are the conditions defined? They are going to be defined in the schema itself. They are going to be defined in the schema itself at the time of creation of a table. At the time of creation of table. At the time of creation of a table, we are going to put up the conditions. We are going to put up the conditions. So that is where we are going to say we are defining the schema. Next one was where are they are going to be checked. They are going to check over tables. They are going to be checked over the tables. They are going to be checked. So that is where we say the relation is going to be verified. So a legal instance of a relation is one which it is going to specify all the integrity constraints. A legal instance is a relation which it is going to verify all the integrity constraints. A table can have assume there are 4 fields, all the 4 fields can have 4 conditions. So if I am going to input some data, that input data should satisfy all the 4 conditions. I put a condition and if I am inputting some data through an insert operation, definitely the data should undergo all the conditions what we have nominated. If any of the condition is failed, data will not be inserted into a table, or in the similar way, the data can't be retrieved until the condition is going to be satisfied. So that is why we are going to call it as a legal instance. So legal instance is an instance which it is going to satisfy all the integrity constraints what we are going to assume. Now, where is this integrity constraint applied? Where is this integrity constraint applied? It is going to be applied for keys, applied for foreign keys, applied towards a domain keys. and it can be between a single table, and the assertions can be, the conditions can be between multiple tables. Fine. So if I am going to use a foreign key, then it is relationship between multiple tables. Then domain constraint, it is can be applied on a column over a single table, over a single table. So domain constraint, pass, fail, right? Now, what is the domain constraint? Assume I'm going to say exam. Exam, it does have two conditions, pass or it is going to have a fail. So we call that one as a domain constraint. So keys, it can be taken up with super key. It can be taken up with the super key. Then it can be taken up with candidate key. Later on, it can be extended towards the primary key. It can be extended towards the primary key and foreign key, and it can be with composite keys. So when we are going to call it as a keys, we say the considering the all the entire values in a relation. So there we say it is a super key. The eligible, the minimal subset we are going to take up, and that minimal subset values we are going to assume it as a candidate key. From that candidate key, we are going to choose to the specific domain which key will be satisfied to that. We call that one as a primary key, and then a table should have a primary key, and if this primary key, if I'm going to integrate two or more tables, definitely I should see that the foreign key should be a primary key in that table, and thereby it is going to join up to this constraints. There are two rules for key constraints. There can be two rules for key constraint. That is, two distinct tuples in a legal instance cannot have an identical values in a column, right? If I'm going to say student ID, it is 565 and 566. Both are correct, right? If I'm going to have 565, 565 here, then this possibility is a failure. So I'm going to say in a column, it should be unique. So two distinct tuples, this is tuple 1 and this is two distinct tuples, and the column what they are going to post should be unique. It should not have an identical. Next one, no subset of a fields in a key is unique for a tuple, and that should be a maximal. So no subsets of the set of fields in a key is a unique identifier for that tuple. So now you can see this, no two students can have the same identifier, no two students can have same identifier and name. So this is the subset what we are going to pose up. No two students can have the same ID and the same name. So every identifier, it is going to point out to the name, and the names should be distinct. The IDs, so 565, it can be some Lakshmi. 566, it can be some Rama. Now, this instance, no two students can have the same ID and the name. So if I can say 566 Lakshmi here, and again I can say 566 Lakshmi here. So this is a wrong entity, and this set we are going to have a right entity. So when we are going to relate it with two fields, that is field 1 and field 2, that ID here and name here, we should see that they should be again distinct at that region. Now, assume there is a relation. R stands for relation, K stands for the key. So K is going to be a super key of a relation, and you can say they are sufficient to identify the unique tuples. They are sufficient to identify the unique tuples of a relation. Then we are going to call that one item as a super key here. So here we can see the examples: customer name and customer street. Then there is one more set. There is one more set: customer name and customer street. There is another set called as customer name. Now, they both belongs to the customer, and now you can see that all the fields, now no two customer can possibly have the same name. If it is true, then then you can see here no two customers can possibly have the same name. Then it is not going to be the what I want to put here was no two customers can possibly have the same name. Now the answer was yes here. So all these items, they are going to be the super keys. So Rama is the customer name. Another customer is going to have the same name. So no two customers can have the same possibility name. Now we can put all these items a part of a super key. But I need to identify which is unique. I need to identify which is unique. At that say that K is going to be a candidate key and K is going to be a minimal. Whichever is going to be a minimal, that minimal item I'm going to choose it here. So I can say candidate ID, candidate name, and if it is like this, now I can pick up this as a candidate key, because ID is going to be a unique and it is not going to have a no subsets of the key we are going to mention. So a candidate key is going to be generated. Now let us look in this example, which gives us a clear idea. So primary key and candidate key in SQL. So what will be the possible candidate keys? They are going to be part of a unique. So I can say table, it is going to be with enrolled, with student ID, candidate ID and grade, and primary key, it is with SID or CID. So there is another table, you can represent it here. SID is going to be pointed out to the primary key, and unique ID and grade. So unique ID, that one I'm going to say it is not null. Primary key, no duplicate, no repetition value, then it is going to be a unique here. So in the first relation, we mentioned that SID, CID and grade, these three are items, and primary key can be with either SID or primary key can be with CID. Now if I'm going to assume primary key here as a SID, I made SID as a primary key. I'm going to say that primary key is going to be fixed. Primary key is going to be fixed with SID. Then CID and grade should not be null. There should not be any empty value in that. So for that, I'm going to say unique. So again, they are in par. They are at par towards the primary key. But right now we are not going to use them in this relation. Right now we are not going to use them in this relation. So that is what we are going to assume in this scenario. Next comes foreign key or a referral key. When we are going to call it as a foreign key, it can be referred to other table. It can be linked to other table, and condition is it must be a primary key in other table. The compulsory condition what a primary key should, what a foreign key should thing was, it should be a primary key in the table, and once it is a primary key in the table, only that key can be transferred to point out as a reference key towards another key. So when I'm going to say there is a class of 60 students, and in that class of 60 students, I nominate one as a class representative. So that class representative, I am going to call it as a primary key. Now, if I am going to call up to me the 3 class representatives, so 3 primary keys will be linked to my table. So bringing those from your class to this another relation, we say there is a referential activity, and that referential activity is going to be taken up as a part of a foreign key. So it is going to be a set of fields in one relation that can be used to refer a tuple in another relation. It can be used to refer to a tuple in another relation. So foreign key, it is going to be as part of a referencing relation, and it should match the primary key, and it is going to match the primary key. And the second thing was, it should match the same number of columns, the same data type. We should have same number of columns and same data type. Same data type, that is the compatible data types should be same. So here I can say SID, it is going to be a primary key here, and it is number of 5. Primary key, it is number of 5. So 5 here, 566 here, and the third item here. Now, at this point, SSID, it is going to be a foreign key. It can be a foreign key. And see here this relation, the new value what was provoked here is not going to be part of a student. It is a new tuple. It is going to be a new tuple, but of course it is compatible data type, and the same data type it is going to be used here. So in the referential relation, we can add one more column, but that column need not be in the other column what we are going to use. Fine. How we are going to represent a foreign key? How we are going to represent a unique key? And how we are going to represent a primary key? So now a table enrolled is going to be there. It is with SID, CID and grade. It is with SID, CID and grade. Now primary key can be with SID or CID, and foreign key is going to be represented with SID, which is from the student, Now you can see here, SID is going to be the primary key. SID is going to be the primary key, and this primary key, it is with student, and the primary key, it is going to be pointed out to the enrolled relation. Primary key, it is going to point out to the enrolled relation, right? So the primary key in the enroll table, it is with SID and CID, and SIDs, it is taking up two. I will write again here for understanding. Yeah. So now we can see this illustration here. So enroll local primary key CID, borrowed primary key SID. So what are the primary keys here? CID and SID are the primary keys. Next, SID from student is taken to the enrolled. SID from student is taken from the student. Therefore, we are going to call this item as foreign key. We are going to call this item as a foreign key. So in enroll table, we have SID and CID. SID, it is taken up from student and it is assumed as a primary key, and CID, it is assumed as a primary key for enrolled. But how many number of primary keys are there in the enrolled? There are two primary keys, one SID and CID. So SID is going to be a dual role in the student set. It is going to be a primary key. In the enrolled, it is going to be a reference key. So that understanding, that key distinction you should understand. So as far as SID is concerned, it is a primary key in student. It is a referential or a foreign key in enrolled. But of course, it is a primary key. It is originally it is a primary key. So that we have to mention. Therefore, when we are going to build up a relation, we are going to mention primary key. It can be SID and CID. Foreign key, it is going to refer it from the students. Foreign key, it is going to be referred it from the student. We are going to mention it. Now, what if a new student tuple is inserted? When a new student tuple is inserted, what if? Similarly, what should we do if an enrollment tuple with non-existing student is inserted? Assume I am going to say 5, 3, 6, 7, 8. Is it true? Assume I am going to say 5, 3, 5, 5, 5. Is it true? So, is these two cases possible? Now, if it is in this scenario, now we have to say the words rejected. Why rejected? Until it is a in student, we cannot give enrollment. First, he must be in student, then only he gets course enrollment, right? First he should be a student, then only he should get a course enrollment. So what if the items are going to be there? So simply reject it. Next. The next question. For a deletion, what if a student is deleted? If 53650 is deleted in student, then delete it in enrolled. If I am going to delete 53650 in student, then I have to delete it in enrolled. We call that item as cascading. We are going to call that item as cascading. So, no action, that is disallow deletions of student tuple, that is referred to. If there is a relation which already it is built up, that is somebody is going to use that key, then we have to say disallow deletions, we call it as no action. So I can say disallow, and disallow. So we call no action here. Third thing, put it as default. So set SIDs in enrolled tuples to refer it to a default. And fourth one was set null. If I am going to delete it here, if item is deleted, not found in another table, then include null. Then you have to include as null value. So set as unknown or inappropriate. So you have to have a special value called as null. If the item is going to be deleted, then I don't find that item, then what I should do? I have to use a null value here. I should use a null value here. So that is another integrity constraint which it is going to taken up. So we will pause here, pause our class here, end it up. You have